Welcome to the review video for WizardQuiz. So before we get started with the actual code for WizardQuiz, I just want to emphasize how flexible classes in JavaScript really are, because at the end of the day, classes are really just a syntactic sugar for constructor functions and attaching prototypal methods to that function's prototype. Because here we can see that we can have anonymous classes. We can have classes that don't have any name whatsoever, and if we try to if we use the type of operator with that class, we're going to get function. You can see right here that a class really just has a type of function. It's really, you can imagine as just being a constructor function. There are a couple rules that JavaScript engines impose on classes that make them slightly different from constructor functions. Because, say, for example, if you try to invoke a class without using the new keyword, it will give an error. But those restrictions are really just helpful because it makes sure that we're only using a class the way that's intended, which is something that constructor functions are perhaps a little bit too flexible towards. So given that we can accept that classes are really just functions, we can see how it starts to make sense that anything you can do with a function in JavaScript, you can do with a class as well, because classes, just like functions, are first-class citizens in this sense. We can see here that rather than doing a class declaration where we say something like class foo and declare it that way, we could go ahead and we could also just write an anonymous class and store it in a variable. Just like this, we could say const foo equals our class right here, and that would be equivalent to doing a class declaration as well. Likewise, classes can be accepted as arguments and returned from functions. Here I've written a small function called func, which accepts a class as its argument and returns another class called bar that extends that other class. So we could see if I were to invoke that func right here with our foo class, the class stored in our foo variable right here, this would return the class bar extended by foo, which we could then use to make, say, some instances of this bar extended by foo class. And what these classes might do here is entirely arbitrary. I just really want to demonstrate that we can do things like this in JavaScript, pass classes around and use them in this flexible manner. Because the idea behind a higher order component then is because components in React are classes, this is essentially what we're doing with them, is we're passing these classes around and extending them with other functionality.